Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day so far. Well, as you all know, it is the holiday season. Christmas is only a couple of weeks or so away. During this time of the year, you got a lot of people that are out here running up their credit cards, maxing them out in the name of celebrating the holidays. You got a lot of people out and about, maybe doing a little bit of traveling, visiting family and friends and other relatives, just prepping for Christmas and New Year's and all that good stuff. Well, during this time of the year, you also have a lot of people that are silently suffering what's called seasonal depression. You see, during this time of the year, this time of the year is a time of the year where most people suffer depression, and they call it, and therefore they call it seasonal depression. Now, what I'm getting ready to say, it is not medical advice. So let's get that out of the way. What I'm going to say on this video are going to be ways that I personally think that people can deal with seasonal depression, which will help. And some of the ways that I'm getting ready to name off in a minute here are ways that I dealt with seasonal depression. Now, for those of you that, for those that have severe depression to where you think you might need to go see a professional, you might need to take medication, do what you gotta do. Again, this is not medical advice. This is just my 2 cents about seasonal depression. But before I go into what I think people can do to help themselves out during seasonal depression, like I said, during this time of the year, more people suffer seasonal depression than any other time of the year. I mean, from the late fall through the winter, which is the time of the year that we're in right now, is when most people suffer seasonal depression. Now, some of the common reasons why many people suffer seasonal depression, well, there's a bunch of reasons out there. Now, excuse me, people. Now, this time of the year is the time of the year where, unfortunately, you have a lot of people that lose their loved ones. They lose their loved ones. Someone in the family may have got cancer and passed away, or your elders may have got old and passed away. During 2020, a lot of people caught the virus. And since their immune system wasn't all that great in the first place, they passed away. Now, let's say in my family, almost every family member that has ever passed away during this time of the year. Well, to be more specific, every family member that passed away in January. My mom, she passed away in January. My father, he passed away in January. And my oldest sister, she also passed away in January. And if I can remember clearly, at least one of my, well, no, two of my grandparents passed away in January as well. Like, this is the time of the year where, generally you might have a loved one, and they might be severely ill, and then in January they expire. So, and there's also a lot of other people out here, and also at the place where I work, we have a lot of people that during this time of the year, they pass away for one reason or another. And I also know people in my life that they got loved ones and people that they were close to that during this time of the year, either A, they were severely ill, or B, they passed away altogether between now and January. And also, this is a time of the year where, some people might be beating themselves up a little bit because maybe they've had goals that they set for themselves. And for one reason or another, those goals were not accomplished. So the holiday season for some people could be a reminder of another year that has went by to where you failed to accomplish whatever goals that you set to accomplish back in January when you made that New Year's resolution. Maybe, so whatever that may be. Now, and also during this time of the year, of course, the weather outside in most parts of the country is crappy. It's colder outside in many parts of the country. There's not going to be as many days of sunlight as there were during the warmer months of the year. There's not going to be as many people outside because of the weather. So, due to the weather, more people are going to be inside. So, I would say the climate is also a contributing factor to seasonal depression for many people that suffer seasonal depression. And I would say just the stress of preparing for the holiday in itself is another reason why many people may be suffering some type of depression around this time of the year. And then some people, maybe they're thinking, well, next month is January, and for some people, the first of the year may not be a good time of the year for one reason or another. So, you know, during this time of the year, you got some people that are thinking about some of the things that are going to be coming their way in January, which they may not be looking forward to. And also, this is the time of the year where, yeah, you got a lot of jobs out here that are throwing Christmas parties and stuff like that. They're throwing Christmas parties and they might order some off-brand pizza with a crust tastes like cardboard. But you also got a lot of companies that altogether they're laying people off. So people are losing their jobs. If either A, they're losing their jobs during this time of the year, or B, they're going to lose their jobs, sometime in the early part of the following year. Now, here are some ways that I think people can deal with seasonal depression. Number one, identify why it is that you're depressed. Why are you depressed? And then once you identify the reason why you're depressed, what could be done about the reason why you're depressed? What are you able to do about it today, right now? What steps can you take to rectify your situation? So, what can you do about why you're depressed? Like, if you're depressed, like for an example, if you're depressed because you lost your job, obviously you're going to start looking for another job. And I would say in this day and age, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to, do a couple of side hustles, do a couple of side gigs. It may not be a whole lot of money, but it's better than nothing at all. And plus, it might help you get your mind off of the fact that you don't have a stable job at this point. Maybe you might be depressed because, well, you look outside and it's always gray. Now, for me, I did suffer a little bit of seasonal depression. I don't suffer it no more because of a few decisions that I made for myself. And even when I did suffer seasonal depression, it wasn't anything severe. It wasn't anything that required me to go seek professional help and medication. It was something that I was able to do. It is something that I was able to resolve myself. Like for me, during this time of the year, when there's prolonged days of cold weather, uh, lack of sunlight, lack of greenery, it does put me in a bit of a depressed mood. And that's one of the reasons why I left Indiana and I moved to Alabama. Now, during that short period of time that I was up in the, I went back up to Indiana a couple of years ago, when you know when the winter time came and it started getting cold, it started snowing, and there were way more days of overcast, of gray overcast skies compared to nice sunny and clear skies. It was a reminder of why it was I left Indiana and I decided to move to Alabama in the first place. Because a couple of years ago, when I first went back to Indiana, my initial plan was to stay in Indiana during the warmer months and be here in Alabama during the colder months. But to make a long story short, the region of Alabama where I was living at that point, the economy was complete garbage. So I therefore had to stay up in Indiana in order to earn a living. And during that time I was up in Indiana, I mean, I did get a little bit depressed, mainly because of the climate. So for me, like I said, I left Indiana and I came down here to Alabama. And that helped me out big time because down here during this time of the year, it's a lot warmer. For the most part, we don't deal with snow. And down here around this time of the year, you will still drive down the freeway, drive down any road in the part of Alabama where I currently reside, and you will still see greenery. And I would say most days, the sun does come out because down here we get way more sun than they get up in Indiana during this time of the year. Now, even back when I was up in the Midwest and I did suffer a little bit of seasonal depression, one thing I did to help me deal with the issue is, well, for one, I always stayed busy. I made sure that I did not sit around for too long. I made sure I did not allow myself too much idle time. So I always stayed busy. Like if I absolutely had nothing to do, nothing going on, fortunately, when I was up in Indiana, I had a couple of friends that lived close by, so I would drive over and visit them for a few hours and just shoot the shit with them. Or sometimes I might get on the phone and talk to some of my other friends from other parts of the country. Or I would just get online here and just look at uh, YouTube channels that help me that helps me escape reality, but at the same time the videos might provide a bit of education. It'll provide me a little bit of education. It might be something that I can use in my life at a later date. Like for an example, I might come online and I might watch somebody rebuild a house. Well, not rebuild a house, but renovate a house. I might watch somebody set up a van to live out of while they travel the country. I might, stuff like that. So another way I think people who suffer seasonal depression can help them, can help. Another thing, excuse me, people, I can't talk for shit today. My apologies. Anyways, another way that I think would be beneficial. Uh, Let me think here. Give me 1 minute here. I had an idea, but now I lost my train of thought for a second. Yeah, okay. I got my train of thought back. Now, sometimes if you're living in a northern climate and you're living somewhere in a rural community, although you got more and more people moving to rural communities, to live in a rural community up north during this time of the year, for some people, could be very depressing. Because not only are you looking outside and all you see are gray skies and it's cold, and it just puts you in a it puts you in a depressed mood sometimes. So I would say if you live somewhere to where it does, to where you don't get a whole lot of sun and it gets cold and you're out in the country, jump in a vehicle and take a trip to the closest metro area to where you reside. And although the weather in that area is most likely going to be the same, like when you go into this metro area, I'm not saying you gotta move there. I'm just saying just go there and visit. Maybe go and uh, try a new restaurant there. I mean, don't go to the chain restaurant. Go to one of the local owner-ran restaurants. Go and get you a meal there. And then maybe after you eat, or before you eat, maybe you can go to the art museum, or many cities have aquariums. You can go visit the aquarium, or whatever venues that may interest you, that you might find in the city. You can go visit a couple of them. A lot of cities also have parks. You can go downtown and you can go, yeah, you can go downtown, walk around downtown. You can also go to a city park, because when you do stuff like that, what happens is you see other people, and for those of you are that like to socialize, you see other people, you can talk to other people. I mean, when you go to the city, you see signs of life. As we're out in the country, everything is super quiet. You're, it feels as if you're by yourself. Even though you may have neighbors around you, it feels as if you're by yourself, because out in the country, the majority of your neighbors, they tend to stay to themselves. And there's not really anything in the country that's going on that's going to attract a high volume of people. So sometimes leaving the country and driving to the closest metro area to where you live may help you deal with your seasonal depression. Or for those of you that are in the city and you suffer seasonal depression around this time of the year, maybe leaving the city and going out to the country, or even going to the park and just being one with nature for an hour or two could help you kick your depression a little bit. And that's another reason why I desire to live out in the country. Because for me, when I look out my window, I mean, yes, I do got neighbors, but my neighbors are not like on top of me like they would be if I were in the city. But when I look out my window, I can see the sky. I can see the trees, the grass. I can even hear the different animals doing what they do whenever I wake up in the morning or when I come home in the evening time, especially during the summer. And on my days off, I make it a point to go outside and get some fresh air, get some of that vitamin D on days that the sun is out. And again, I can hear the animals, I can see the sky, the trees, the grass, and that fresh air, and it just makes me feel good. And I find it much. Uh, I mean, for me, I just like living the country life better than living a city life. Now, every so often, I do miss the city, and whenever I get that itch to wanna go to the city on a day that I'm off of work, I'll just jump in my vehicle and I'll go to one of the metro cities close by to where I reside. I mean, where I live. I am almost smack dab in the middle of two of Alabama's metro cities. So one week I'll go to one metro city, then the next week I'll go to the other. And then when I get done doing what I do there, I come back home. And every day when I wake up and I drive to work, it absolutely makes my morning to look around and I see all the trees. I see all the dilapidated houses that are sitting way in the back off the road. Because when you're driving these country roads, especially here in Alabama, you'll see a lot of that type of stuff. You'll see a lot of vehicles that you may not seen on that you may not have not seen on the road for the last 20 plus years. You might see some of them vehicles off in someone's yard, just sitting there. You might see interesting structures that people live in. Because where I live here in Alabama, uh, we don't have the government breathing down our neck telling us how to live our lives, telling us what we can and can't do on our own piece of land. Now, I'm not saying it's a complete free for all where I'm at, but compared to many other parts of the country where I'm at, people basically build whatever the hell they want to build. So when I'm driving to work, I'm driving from work, I get to see all these different structures on a daily basis, along with, of course, nature. I don't have to deal with a bunch of traffic. I don't gotta deal with just general chaos that many people deal with in the city. So for me, not A, moving somewhere rural, and B, moving somewhere warmer with more days of sun was a huge contributing factor to why it is I don't to why it is that today I don't suffer seasonal depression the way that I used to. And another thing that could help many of you who suffer seasonal depression is it's a good old diet. Check your diet. Because sometimes we might consume certain foods or, and again, check your medication. Because sometimes the medication that you may take, one of the side effects might be depression. There's certain foods that we might eat, whether we realize it or not. Some of the foods we might consume may be known for inducing some type of depression. So yeah, check your diet, check your medicine cabinet. Because changing all that will help you as well. And also, for those of you that are sociable and you like to be around people on a regular basis, mind the people that you hang around. because that could also be a contributing factor to your depression. Like if you're hanging around people that are always miserable and they always talking about, well, they always talk like for an example, if you're hanging around a bunch of people that are always angry, they always talking about it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault. They're always pointing the finger and blaming someone for why it is that their life is not right. If you're hanging around those kind of people, you might want to kind of step back from people like that and deal with people that are more positive. Or two, just be by yourself and do some self reflection. Now, if you're like me and you're an introvert, uh, I would say the best thing that you can do to deal with seasonal depression is to stay busy. Stay busy. I mean, if you don't got nothing to do, or if you're too tired to do anything physical, go online, read an article, or I guess you can always do it. You can always be old school and pick up a book and read a book, learn something, read a novel, read a story. Do anything to get your mind off of your depression. Or depending on why it is that you're even depressed, work on doing something to rectify why you're depressed. Because most people that are depressed are generally depressed for a reason. Now, me personally, I'm not a strong believer of taking a whole bunch of medication. I just don't. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not ever necessary. For some people, medication is necessary, and I get that. But I know for me, I try to stay away from antidepressants. Because if I'm feeling some kind of way, like depressed for an example, I rather get to the root of why it is that I'm depressed and then do what I gotta do to turn all that around and to live a happier life. And that's the reason why with me, I put so much emphasis on being happy. Because to me, happiness equals a longer and healthier and better quality life. So that's why I put so much emphasis on happiness. Because you got a lot of people that are out here and they're not living their best life. They're out here just doing what they believe society wants them to do. And as a result, you got a lot of people that are miserable. You got a lot of people that are taking certain kind of medication because of their misery. And they're going to stay taking those kind of meds because they failed to get to the root of why they're depressed in the first place and then do something about that. Because, and again, this is not medical advice. This is just my 2 cents about dealing with depression. To me, if you're feeling depressed, once you get to the root of why it is that you're depressed and you do something about that, once once you do something about that, it's done, it's over. You can go on with the rest of your life. As for if you're depressed and you go to a doctor and you keep taking medication, unless something changes, you're going to most likely be dependent on that medication for the rest of your life, which is going to be one extra bill that you're going to have, that you're going to have to spend for the rest of your life. And some of those medications, they can have all kind of side effects to them. And I just rather not go down that rabbit hole. That's just where I'm at. Not to mention that many doctors who give you who prescribe you medication, many of them they get kickbacks from the pharmaceutical companies that they use. So that's another thing. A lot of your doctors, in my humble opinion, do not care about you. I mean, yes, they will give you a half hour to an hour for you to say what the hell you're going to say because they get paid to listen to you. But I would say a lot of doctors who work in that field of work, they generally do not care for their patient. They listen to you for a little bit, and then they give you a prescription for some kind of medication that they get a kickback off of. And that's it. You go back the next month, you talk some more, and I would say, at least from my experience, I would say whenever you talk to people who deal with patients who are suffering certain type of mental conditions, it is, like again, this is from my experience. A lot of these doctors, they're not going to sit down and ask you the important, critical, hard questions. They're not going to ask you, why are you depressed, sir or ma'am? They're not going to ask you that. They're going to let you talk. They're going to let you they're going to let you spill the beans, so to speak. And then when your time is up and it's time for them to get the next patient in, they're going to be like, okay, keep taking whatever medication. I'm going to give you a subscription for a new medication, and then off you go. And then the next month or the next week, it's the same old shit all over again. Because if more of these doctors, and I'm pretty sure there's a few doctors that are good, and they will ask you the hard but appropriate questions to get to the bottom of why you're depressed. But many doctors out here, they know if they do ask you those questions, they know if they do have a conversation with you of what you can do about your issue of being depressed. In a nutshell, they're not going to make as much money off of you. They're not going to get away with simply putting you on a bunch of medication. B, there's not going to be as many appointments to attend. Because once they put that seed in your brain, and they give you suggestions of how you can actually deal with your depression that will help you long term. Sooner or later, you will not need that medication. You will not need to continue to go to those appointments. Because at that point, you're going to have everything in order to where you are no longer going to be depressed. Or your depression is going to go down substantially. So that's all I got for this one. I know this video is long, but there is a lot that I wanted to say on this topic. Because I think it's important that people learn to deal with depression. And I think it's important that people learn to deal with depression without having to always rely on some kind of medication. Because most of us, whenever we get depressed, there's a reason why we're depressed. Like I said earlier, the second that you find the reason why you're depressed and then you rectify that, the better off the rest of your life will be. So that's all I got for this one. Stay blessed. Catch you all in the next one.